Hey everyone, it's Emily Hemingway with Tech STL. We are proud to serve as the voice of St. Louis innovation. And in this show, I have the pleasure of sitting down with some of the top tech founders, CEOs, and overall disruptors here in the Gateway City. We can't talk about technology and innovation without talking to this guy, Jim McKelvey. So he is one of the top CEOs here in town. He's one of the co-founders of Block, as well as the CEO of Invisibly, and a bunch of other things that you're doing in the community. So I wanted to thank you, Jim, for sitting down with us and for serving as a keynote this year for the FinTech Summit.
I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for anyone who lives under a rock and they don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit more about the companies, all the hats that you wear here in St. Louis?
Well, there are quite a few. So I'm a St. Louis native, went to WashU, lived here most of my life, and started a bunch of companies here, mostly with other St. Louisans. So Jack Dorsey and I started Square, which is now called Block. I also started a nonprofit called Launch Code, where people can learn how to program and get jobs, and there's no charge for becoming a Launch Code student, so that's fantastic. Third Degree Glass Factory on Delmar with Doug Auer. So we've been on Delmar for 20 years now. I used to make my living making glass, so I do that. There are a few other things. Invisibly is a new firm that we started actually 5 years ago, but we're still sort of in the early stages of figuring out what the product is. But Invisibly is really exciting because it allows people to take control of how their attention is bought and sold online. So the platforms sort of monetize you in ways that's good for them, not good for you. We're trying to make it good for you.
Well, and so that's actually the topic that you're speaking on at the FinTech Summit, is the future of data ownership and what you guys are doing at Invisibly. Can you talk about why you think that's so important for us to know more about and to really prepare around and moving forward in the FinTech space?
Yeah, so you'll notice that I didn't mention on my resume that I'm actually an economist by training, and I'm on the Fed. So I don't want to bore you to death with econ speak, but here's the deal. You don't want free stuff. You may think you want free stuff, but you pay for free stuff in a way that's possibly counterproductive for your interests. So for instance, when I look at a news feed, I want to choose the stories that I read. I don't want them to be fed to me like some, feedlots are for cattle, okay, not for humans. So what Invisibly does is we put you at the center of these transactions. So when you see an ad, when you read a piece of content, there's actually money flowing, and the platforms control that. So what we do at Invisibly is we basically say, hey, look, your attention is worth this much. If you give us your attention, like if you'll just, for instance, let us take a look at your bank account. We don't have to touch the money. We just want to see where the money is going. We can actually sell that information for enough to, get you a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. Or we can get even more interesting. You can say, well, I don't want to have you look at any of my data. And we say, cool, then how about taking some surveys? So you can do surveys or watch ads. But at the center of this is this idea that the human whose life it is should be in control of how their attention is bought and sold.
Well, and that's really changing the power dynamics and the way that data just unfolds. I think as humans, we didn't think that would be possible for us to have more control over what that looks like. That's huge.
There's a very smart venture capitalist who, Roger McNamee, who wrote a book called Zucked, because he was the one that first exposed what Facebook was doing, which was sort of counter to people's interests. And Raj said to me, he said, I've been railing against Facebook for years, but I've never found an alternative until he saw the Invisibly product. So look, it's early days. I'm not saying it does everything we expect it to do eventually, but right now you sign up at invisibly.com and you can start to take control of your attention and get a bunch of free subscriptions.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah, so no more paywalls. So
Absolutely.
Think of it that way. Yeah.
Well, and I'm really excited to see how this is all happening. And of course, so right now the hottest topic is AI, right? That we might as well call Tech Week AI Week. Everything that we're doing, there has to be some lens on AI. I'm really curious around what your perspective is on what's happening with ChatGPT and how that is potentially impacting not only data ownership, but also the FinTech space. What are you seeing in that?
Well, I'm still figuring it out. So we're investors in some of these companies, and even as investors, we don't really know exactly what's going on. So I'm still learning. The bottom line here is it's going to change everyone's life. We don't know how. Like nobody like me who looks into the camera and says, it's going to do this, is confident in that prediction. Like there's just too many variables right now. But look, it's really exciting and also kind of scary.
Yeah, for sure. And So, another thing that's been pretty scary is the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, right? And that's also had an impact on, we're seeing that that's a conversation that we're having at the FinTech Summit and, how that's impacting the FinTech space. What are you seeing that look like in this larger industry and in the conversations that you're having?
So I was on the Fed, so I got not a front row seat, but like a second row seat to the Silicon Valley Bank collapse. And honestly, it went pretty well.
Good.
I mean, look, banks are not supposed to collapse, but sometimes it happens. And when it happens, what you want is a strong central bank to stop the bleeding, to stop the problem. And we did exactly what we were supposed to do, which was we came in, guaranteed everybody's money, and basically calmed the world down again. And if we had not done that, I mean, there were some people who say, well, you just made rich bankers richer by, bailing them out, and there's moral hazard and all this stuff. And my response to that is, yeah, look, what were we supposed to do? If you let banks collapse and you stiff the businesses that have, millions of dollars of payroll sitting there, as Invisibly did. Like we were one of the we were one of the companies that got caught. But if you let a bank like that go down, then no company is going to bank anywhere but the big four, and you'll literally lose the mid-tier and small-tier banks. So we don't want that, and the Fed did what it had to do, along with the FDIC and the Treasury.
Well, and I'm glad it was handled so well, that it did help really mitigate kind of the blowback on that and protect some of the companies in having additional impact.
Yeah, I mean, we could have done it a day faster, but there were some politicians who were whining about, they were trying to score political points. So yeah, that had to take until Sunday.
Well, so amidst all these different changes and challenges, there's also just a lot of opportunity on the front lines of FinTech and in this space. What are you most excited about when it comes to innovation in financial technology that's maybe on the horizon over the next 12 months?
So it's the same thing I've always been excited about, which is including more people in the game. So Square, which we now call Block, was this idea that I wanted to get the same access as a small artist that big stores had, which was the ability to take credit cards. So that turned into a big product line. Cash App, which is phenomenal, is it's a really empowering tool for a lot of people, especially the underbanked. There are a lot of people who say, oh, it does what my bank does. No, it does it way better, but it also does it if you don't have a bank. And that's the magic of Cash App. And so in the FinTech world in general, I like this pattern of bringing tools and techniques and technologies that were previously only available to rich and powerful to everybody.
Well, and so we're doing something very similar in the St. Louis community, right? Of how we are creating tech opportunity for all people, right? The innovation became the thread that connected us all, and we saw that through the pandemic, and even more so. And so you have been such an integral piece of growing opportunity here in St. Louis. As a region, as we're trying to really position this community as a thriving tech hub, what do you see as being some of our biggest strengths in St. Louis, as well as some of our biggest challenges in really navigating that?
So the strength is of people. I mean, we've had this sort of dynamic group of St. Louis natives, and also new St. Louisans. So the International Institute brings in a lot of refugees. There's a lot of energy in that community. There are a lot of people who come here from horrible situations, and they want to build, they want to do new things. And so harnessing that energy has always been what's sort of made St. Louis strong. As far as challenges go, I mean, I think we need to have better leadership. I've been very worried about the crime problem and just civil society. So if we can get the crime in order, then people will come here. And if we can't, we'll go the way of cities like San Francisco, where it's just gotten sort of too crazy to be on the streets, so we leave.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so I've only been here for about 2 years, and I've been so impressed with the level of grittiness that is here, right? The entrepreneurship community, the small business community, just the level of passion that you see in the St. Louis community. You grew up here. Yep. You went through your whole founder journey here in St. Louis. What are some of the things that you're most proud of in how you've navigated your startup experience here in the Gateway City?
So I didn't go through all of it here. I mean, I did a lot of it in San Francisco, some of it in New York, some of it in Miami, so I've been around.
Yeah.
But St. Louis is always my home, and I always come here. You know, really the thing that I am sort of daily thankful for is people like Mike Orlowski and Doug Auer and John Berglund. You know, these people that I work with. You know, Jen Fuller, who's running the diaper lab with me. I get to work with great people, and it's just a joy.
That's awesome. And what is, last question, what's your biggest hope for the St. Louis community, especially in regards to building innovation opportunities here?
Well, I mean, I think we need to be a little less conservative. I wrote a book on this topic. It's called The Innovation Stack. I'm constantly preaching this, and I'm sorry if you've heard it before, but if you haven't heard it, look, there's a difference between doing something that everybody else is doing and doing something that's never been done before. And entrepreneurs these days are basically copycats. Most entrepreneurs are doing stuff that's formulaic and can be done anywhere. And, you know, software as a service, FinTech company. Hey, we've seen that play before. And I'm not saying that's not bad. I'm not saying that doesn't make a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I've got a venture capital firm that does nothing but invests in those things. It makes a lot of money, but it's boring. What is interesting, what changes the world are people who are willing to do stuff that hasn't been done before. St. Louis has had such a successful history, but that was 100 years ago, folks. And what we need now are people who, you know, don't look back to the 1904 World's Fair and are instead looking forward to, you know, the 2200s.
Absolutely. Well, and so at Tech STL, that's exactly what we're working towards, is how we're supporting the community in not only looking forward, but also taking on what some people see as the impossible, right? Of how we're really thinking innovatively and how we solve these problems. So I want to thank you for joining us today and for coming out to the FinTech Summit. It's going to be great to have you there. And you'll be signing books, signing your book there. Yep, for those who haven't read it.
Oh, I'll sign any book. I mean,
yeah,
you can,
we'll just throw books at you the whole time. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, so if you're looking for more information about Jim and the other amazing tech founders that we have here in St. Louis, check us out at techstl.com, and we've got more interviews like this coming up on our YouTube channel, so stay tuned. Thanks again, Jim. Y'all have a great day.